Nick Saban has broken down the Ohio State defense, and we got to talk about that and the man responsible for the great game plan that Ohio State is getting praised for by Nick Saban. We got to break it all down. What's up, guys? I'm Matt Long. Welcome to Columbus Football 365. If you're enjoying the channel, please, only 3.9% of viewers are subscribed to the channel, so please hit that subscribe button. But getting into the news for today, on College Football Game Day, Nick Saban was asked, who is the most consistent college football defense? And he said, I don't think there's any question on who is the most consistent. First of all, they do a great job with execution, but it's the multiples that they present that make it difficult for the quarterback versus all types of looks. He then continued on to say, now we've heard coaches say they play man-to-man on one side and zone on the other, but Ohio State can play a man-to-man match on one side and then zone on the other side, and the quarterback doesn't even know what he's looking at. Saban then went on to explain another play, saying they line up showing two high safeties, but then Caleb Downs rotates down to take away a crosser. So that's kind of a lot, but I do have the play that he was breaking down, and I'm going to explain exactly what he is talking about. First of all, most college football defenses play either man coverage or zone coverage, but the Ohio State defense do a mixed coverage where they split the field in half and play match man coverage to one side and then zone coverage to the other side. So we're going to start off with the match side. The top of the screen right now is where the Ohio State defense is playing man match, where what that means is you are pretty much playing zone coverage, but when a guy runs near you, you then switch to man-to-man principles and you stick to that guy and stick with him for the play. So the most inside middle linebacker, the guy who is labeled number 1, he takes the inside shallow receiver. So if anyone goes in that area, he picks him up. Number 2 takes the outside shallow receiver. Number 3, our boundary corner, he's going to take the deep outside route. And then number 4, the safety is going to take away the deep inside route. And what they do is they pretty much form a diamond after the ball is snapped to take away every single guy. You may say, what if one guy or two guys go to one zone? That's, an offensive strategy, but a lot of the times, usually that would be bad game planning when you are going to be running two guys as close as these guys are lined up right now. The way to beat that would be a trail technique, which is when you'd have like a drag route, take away the first guy, and then run another, either like a Texas route or a slant route behind it. That's how you could get it open against this coverage, but you're not going to call that unless you're expecting this. And if you did expect this and you call that, great play call. But that's what's going on the top side of the play. On the back side, Ohio State on this play is playing cover 2, which means they're going to have one safety deep and then who's playing a deep half, which means his responsibility is deep and only half of the field, because in normal cover 2, there will be 2 deep corners or deep safeties, one taking one half, the other one taking the other half. But like I've hammered in here, they're playing multiple defense. So the safety on the top of the screen is not in a deep half. So on the bottom of the screen, we have that safety in a deep half, and then the cornerback is up close to the line of scrimmage in a flat zone. Then we have a hook zone from our nickel cornerback who is lined up over the slot receiver to the bottom of the screen. So got that? Good. Now let's go over to the next kind of play that Nick Saban was talking about, which is when they show cover 2 or 2 high safety look, and then they rotate down into a cover 1. This is using Caleb Downs, as Saban called him, a rat. I've heard it, as a robber, a rat robber. It pretty much means a safety who's going to be taking over the middle of the field and taking away any crossing routes that may occur over there. This is really tricky because a lot of the time the quarterback will see a linebacker vacate that zone and think, oh, I'm open. He's going to throw it. And then the safety jumps in and robs, hence the name, robs the pass for an interception and can make a play on it. It's a tricky type of thing. Quarterbacks have to make sure they're disciplined in their post-snap reading. Most quarterbacks can read the field pre-snap, but then the better quarterbacks are able to take the snap and they do something called confirming their read, which is when they look at the safeties and they confirm that their pre-snap read is the same and they're not going to go from a cover 2 and rotate into a cover 1, when of course in this situation we are. So the quarterback has to be able to identify that, because whether they are 2 high safety or 1 high safety, the reads on the play change and the weaknesses of the defense change. So the quarterback has to be ready for that. Now, who does Ohio State have to thank for this genius defense? It's of course new defensive coordinator, Matt Patricia, who is inheriting a defense that lost a lot of guys to the NFL, but his game plan has really brought this Ohio State defense. They're even better than they were last year. I mean, I don't even know how it's possible, but allowing 5.9 yards per game, which is crazy. And Matt Patricia is an NFL guy. Saban made sure that he pointed out a Matt Patricia guy, just like Saban was. They both of these coaches coached with Bill Belichick himself, who is the king of crazy defenses to trick young quarterbacks. Now, Matt Patricia is bringing his knowledge from the NFL into the college football game, where he is using his safeties and his very highly athletic defenders to do a bunch of things that are going to trick the quarterback, like rotating the safeties, like just doing a lot of things that the quarterback is not ready to see. The word that Saban kept bringing out was multiple, and that really describes it really well, because like we saw, that defense that we broke down the first play, it was half man, half zone, two coverages at the same time. Matt Patricia brings out a really good defense that not a lot of college teams run. And because not a lot of college teams run it, a lot of college offenses are not prepared for it. And having 1 week, or maximum, if you're coming off a bye week, 2 weeks to prepare for Ohio State, it's tough to be ready like that on that short of a notice. Now, you may be asking yourself, why wouldn't other teams run it? And it's because most teams don't have the personnel to run this type of scheme, but the Ohio State Buckeyes have the number one safety that there is to run a scheme like this in Caleb Downs, who everyone who breaks down this defense, make sure to call out Caleb Downs, because he really is that special. He's going to be a top 10 pick. I'm seeing him kind of fall on some draft boards. I don't really understand how that could be possible. I know he does not play a premier position, so when you do have a top 10 draft pick, a lot of teams aren't like, oh, we really, really need a safety. But if you do want a safety, Caleb Downs is very deserving of going in the top 10. The last top 10 corner in the NFL draft was Jamal Adams out of LSU, drafted to the New York Jets. So I would think it would be really cool to see Caleb Downs be drafted that high, because when it's a safety getting drafted that high, it has to be an extremely, extremely special player, because safeties never go that high in the NFL draft. But what Caleb Downs allows Matt Patricia to do is bluff his defenses, where we come out in a single high and switch to a 2 high, or a 2 high, switch it back to a 1 high, or you could even go to a 3 high. You can do all types of crazy things. Caleb Downs is fast enough where he can line up as a deep safety, and as soon as the ball snaps, be already up on the line of scrimmage, ready just to wreak havoc, ready to trick the quarterback. I mean, the film is tricky to watch when you're watching the film. I can't even imagine being a quarterback who is now forced to line up versus the Ohio State Buckeyes defense and having to figure that out on the fly, especially when that defense has been perfectly prepared for you specifically. Like, if the team is going up against you playing quarterback, they know about your weaknesses and they're going to try to exploit them. Can't even imagine how scary that is. And that's just one of the many factors contributing to this Ohio State number 1 ranked scoring defense. Absolutely love to see it. Another name that's just been going absolutely crazy this year, Arvell Reese, the linebacker. Him and Sonny Styles, you knew they were going to be beasts, but Arvell Reese is just absolutely on a different level. He's another player that lets Matt Patricia do a whole lot of different things as a defensive coordinator. I know that sounds like really poor analysis, but what I mean is some defensive coordinators are limited by the lack of talent that their guys present, and Arvell Reese is the opposite of limited. That's what I mean when I say he gives you the opportunity as a defensive play caller to do everything that you could even think of in your head. Arvell Reese, he's good enough at rushing the passer to get after the passer. He's fast enough to get deep in a Tampa 2, play that deep blue is what I call it, because, I grew up playing Madden. Deep blue zone, get back from a linebacker spot, or even line up on the line of scrimmage and drop back into some crazy zones, just making life really, really difficult for quarterbacks who are playing against the Ohio State. And I'm really glad that this group of defenders have come together, paired with the mind that is Matt Patricia. Jim Knowles did a great job last year with this defense and, won a championship. So really, really good job. But Matt Patricia is just looking like he's on a different level. The fact that he brings in defensive or NFL schemes and NFL level strategies and plays them against college quarterbacks is really unfair. and the fact that Ohio State has a lot of defenders that are 1 or 2 or 3 years going to be NFL players themselves, it really creates an unfair disadvantage for whoever's playing up against Ohio State. But hey, I am happy to see it be, happy to have us having the advantage. Ohio State's defense is going to be unbelievably difficult to crack. Most likely, if this team is going to lose a game, it's going to become the offense getting stymied, not the defense being solved, because I really don't think this defense is solvable with how multiple they are and how many different things that the players allow the coaches to call and how many things the coaches are smart enough to game plan for this football team. Ohio State, the future is so bright this year. After last year, where it ended as good as it possibly could with a national championship, Ohio State is currently the easy favorite. The easy favorite to go back to back, and I absolutely cannot wait to watch what this team has in store and what else Matt Patricia is going to scheme up for this defense. But that's what I got for this video. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you're new to the channel, and go Buckeyes.